Hey everyone, welcome to Academy XI and the open day for today. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to join. So while we wait for the ones who have already joined, it would be good if you could just introduce yourself on the chat, tell us a little bit about where you're from, and why you're here. That'll be great. Thank you. Hey Sam, welcome. I hope it's a good day in Melbourne. Oh, wow. Hi, Mark from Brisbane. Yeah. Hi, Joel from Sydney. Okay. So it's good representation across the board. Even if you have joined recently, we're just waiting for 2 minutes for us to kick off. While we wait, if you want to kind of introduce yourself, your name and where you're from, that'll be great. Awesome. Okay, let's kick off. I hope everybody can see my screen, like if in case you can't put that on the chat. So welcome to the open day for tech and data here at Academy XI. And we want to welcome you all to it. My name is Renju Jacob, and I head the tech and data portfolio here at Academy XI. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this flagship open day for SET and FET. A little bit about myself. I'm a software developer by trade, but I've been involved with tech education for the last decade. So worked in a number of organizations, making tech products and managing the delivery of tech products and so on and so forth. So that's me. I'd be kind of talking you through this open day. As I'm hosting this webinar, I'd like to share that I stand on the lands of the Dharawal people. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we are here today. I also welcome any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and recognize and celebrate the diversity of the Aboriginal people and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and the waters across Australia. Awesome. Thank you all for being here today. We have a lot to cover in the next 40 to 50 minutes. We welcome more questions. Using the chat function, we will try to address all of it at the end, but we are limited by time as well. So make sure that you put the questions on the chat, and we'll get to it. If you're thinking about something, please do put it, but others might also have the same question, so it might be a benefit for all of us. So to kind of put the questions in. Would be great if you could introduce yourself on the chat. Your name and probably where you're from would be a good start. So let me just get going. So what are we going to do today? Today, I'll be briefly explaining all you need to know about the course, Software Engineering Transform and the Front-End Transform. A little bit about Tech 101 or Web Architecture 101, just as simple as possible to kind of make the right expectation and also set what we would be covering in this course. We also would know a little bit about the academic and non-academic support. We'll have the mentor for this course who will take us a little bit into what are some of the course materials and key topics, some of the tools that we use, and also we'll talk about the projects as well. We'll then get to hear from our very special guest for the day, one of our alumni, who's joined us. So he'll probably take us through his journey and some of the questions we have for him, which would be, I think, amazing from a prospective student's point of view. And we'll then finally wrap it up with our career advisor, Heidi, who would kind of take us through what's on offer and what are some of the things that she can do to help start your journey. So that's the kind of plan for the day. And let's get going. So the first bit is SET and FET. It's the acronym that we use: Software Engineering Transform and Front End Transform. Tech domains are usually pretty notorious for the acronyms that we use. Sorry, we also use that for our courses as well. In terms of transform, this is the kind of course that we kind of have. Like, the transforms are used to basically transform your careers into that is relevant to the program area. So we have two courses that we run combined. I just want to kind of quickly talk about that. The program is basically designed to kind of give you the skills required for you to transition into the tech industry. So when I say tech industry as a broad, I'm referring to the front end side of things, or the back end side of things as well. Tech industry is massive, and probably we'll touch on that a little bit. It's mainly, so some of the roles that you could be looking at would be a front-end developer or a back-end developer or a full-stack developer, programmer. It could be many different things as we probably start looking into it. So I just want to quite quickly touch on, why do companies care? Like, in terms of, we have a lot of demand, and why do companies care? Like technology is the cornerstone of everything that we do currently. Like, every company has a tech requirement. As you look at it, there's this rapid advent of tech advancements. Like in 6 months, things just change. Like, now we're talking about AI, we were talking about cloud and cybersecurity, and in like a lot of these different technologies is moving at such a fast pace. So companies need to keep up. So they need people who can help them in their journey. And the world is moving online. Everything that you look around has some kind of a presence online. So your friendly grocer or your cafe even has a website with an app that kind of helps you to kind of get rewards or things like that. So everybody wants an online presence, so that generates a lot of demand for software engineers and people who can make that work. And also code, when I refer to code as applications as such, would require timely upgradation, like and change to kind of make sure that it is relevant. Like, things change, computing powers change. So to kind of make sure that it is where it needs to be, we need a team of people to maintain this code. So there's so much code, and we need to maintain it. So that's another part of it. And people are like innovating at such a fast pace. Like, before we knew it, we have AI and things like that. So innovation is a huge part of the journey as well. So that kind of makes sure that there's a lot of demand from the industry point of view as well. And there's this increasing complexity of projects that we see every day, like for different use cases and different companies. So there's always this demand for tech and programming and programmers. So according to the federal government's National Skills Commission 2022 skills priority list, software engineering and application developers or programmers are second most sought after, possibly behind nursing. So that is a huge demand. And that is one of the reasons why we do this program, is to kind of help people land a prospective domain. Why software engineering and front end? It gives you the skill set that to help you set foot into the front end in the full stack world. It is a very extensive program compared to some of the average school programs that we offer, that's offered out there. Our goal is to kind of teach learners not just about simply coding, but how to be successful and land a role and use some of the skill set that we teach in the roles as well. As a part of this course, you'd be spending almost 50% of your time basically coding and labs and practical activities. We kind of help you to kind of build your portfolio of work that you can showcase. So this is kind of the reason why we do what we do. And if you're interested in this journey, this open day is for you to kind of understand what next and how can we help. Moving on. Before we jump into the course content and what we do and what we teach, I just want to kind of spend a little bit of time to kind of explain the web architecture, because it can be confusing. There's so much different jargons like front end and back end and database and things like that. So I just want to kind of bring everything together. This might be an oversimplification of the actual reality, but the idea is that you get an understanding of the various components that an application or a web application uses. So if you basically look at this image, you possibly can see a few different words highlighted. So the first one that you would possibly notice is the users. So the users, then you have front end. It's referring to the web pages or the applications that you deal with. And there is these arrows that, so basically users interact with the front end, and the front end, then basically it says requests, and there's response to the web server. And then the web server, on the other hand, might request images from file systems or databases. So that's the overall picture. If you want to kind of basically divide this whole structure in terms of an application point of view, it's basically divided into 3 layers. So the first one is the presentation layer. So the layer is also known as the client layer. And this is the visible side of the software or the application that you see. If it's a website, it's the visible side of the website. It's where you interact. The main responsibility of this layer is to basically communicate your responses or the forms that you fill or the mouse clicks that you have back to the application layer. So the application layer is the intelligence behind all of this. It's basically called the business logic in terms of what needs to happen based on interaction. So if somebody was to click on this button, what needs to happen? So it might be a different page, or it would possibly ask you to verify yourself or something like that. So that's where the logic behind. So it kind of processes the user input derived from the presentation layer. And also it kind of also acts as a bridge between the presentation and the database. And we use this layer to write the business logic. And the last layer is the data layer, where we kind of interact, and all the data that we have is stored in some form or the other, maybe clicks or likes. And even if you viewed something, it is all stored. Like the images are stored separately, the facts that you use are stored separately. So that is the overall picture. So we didn't get to this place in just suddenly. It just didn't happen. So you need to kind of look at the evolution of software development over the years. This has been changing pretty fast, and we owe it to the internet speeds and the computing speeds that we currently live in. Previously, possibly in 1990s or early 2000, we never had the internet or the speed or the computing power we used to have. And that's where we used to call it the single tier application, where all of these different layers that I just explained, the users, the front end, the web server, all of that, all the different layers that I just spoke about, sat together in as one. The classic example is if you used a desktop or a Mac in the past, we had applications that never needed to connect to the internet, like your MP3 player application, Winamp or something like that, or even Microsoft Office. Never had to connect to the internet. We buy a piece of code from somewhere on a CD or a floppy disk or something like that, and you install it. So the application was all contained at the client, like your laptops or probably even desktops had it. So you install it, you kind of use it. That is the simplest form of application. So everything is kind of bunched into just one piece of code, but it had so many limitations. Like, for example, if there's a bug in the code, there's no way you can correct it. The only way you can correct it is the next year when Windows comes out with the next version of the code, you go buy it and install. So you get the newest version of code. And then that is the most primitive form of applications. Probably the second layer was kind of then dividing that into two tiers, where you'd have the front end part of it sitting with the client, and then just the data sitting somewhere else. So you'd have an application, so all of the data is stored somewhere, because data is starting to grow now. Like there's so much data that it cannot be hosted in just at the client. And probably the next level is we have three layers. That is the common place that we are currently in. So we have the front end, we have the business logic, and then you have the data layer. So each layer has its own piece of code, and it kind of works within. So that's when there are these different titles or job titles coming up. So we have front end, that's where we have the front end people working on things that people interact with, the UX UI, the website, or the forms and the buttons and the colors and all of these different things. So that is the part of that role where you kind of think about how effective can you make the interactions and the aspects of it. The second part is the backend side of it. So backend can again be divided into two, the business logic and the data. So that's where you have database administrators and people who design data and how can it be effectively stored. And then the other part was the server part of it in terms of backend coding, like what is the intelligence if somebody says, clicks on this, what needs to happen. So that's where we currently are. We probably the third layered applications. We call it the N layered now, in terms of we don't want to define it as 3 layers, but it can be multiple layers. So just an example for that whole thing is, it is not just one server that we're talking about. So if you take like an application like YouTube, so much people use it. So one specific server can't handle all the requests coming in. So they have multiple servers and they have multiple databases. So it's like multiple layers as the complexity increases. So they need to load manage. So if you're trying to see a video from Sydney, you might be connected to a separate server compared to you trying to see the same video from Perth or something like that. So there's a lot of complexity around this. So why am I saying all of this? Is just to kind of give you an understanding of this whole thing is massive and complex, and it has evolved over a period of time. So it has different languages, different roles and profiles that people work with. So just want to kind of bring it all together from our point of view. So front end is the front end transform. We kind of teach you the front end part of it in terms of how to create UX, UI, and the components and how to create all of that. And the second part of it is the back end, where we kind of teach you how to program a basic web application and how to kind of go ahead with it. So to kind of wrap it all up, if you kind of look at this is a common question that we get people, because even though this is a structure, see the whole of the back end, so for example, web servers and files and data, it kind of sits on some kind of a cloud. So there might be organizations who maintain it. People can lease out to AWS or Azure or something like that. That's where this whole domain of cloud computing comes from. So how to kind of maintain all of this. So we usually get questions from students like, if I do this, can I be in cloud computing? Even though it is very highly related and all of this, what you kind of work sits on a cloud, what we are teaching is not cloud. And possibly also questions like cybersecurity, all of these aspects, there's so much interaction, there's so much flow of data from one system to another. And there are people out there who can hack into this transfer of data. And that's where cybersecurity comes into play in terms of how can you keep all of this huge movement of data from one system to another safe. So that's that whole domain of keeping it safe is cybersecurity and DevOps and so on and so forth. So there's so many number of different fields and roles that kind of fit in, but we are just at the surface. This is the very common part of the puzzle. I just want to keep moving on. This is a common question as we get as well. Tech stacks, in terms of people say, oh, you should learn Python, or you should say Node.js or something like that. So there's so many different languages. I kind of tried to kind of pick the ones that's most common. So let's just look at it in different stages. So we said we have 3 stages: the client layer, the business layer, and the database layer. So basically front end is the first column, and then you have the backend, the database, and the infrastructure. All of this is relevant for an application. So front-end side of it, what are the common things that's available in the market? HTML, CSS for web application is like the basic, like you have it. You have JavaScript that kind of sits with it. We'll probably, as we go through, we'll explain a little bit more in terms of what these different things do and kind of differentiate it. What I want to kind of drive from this is we have languages and frameworks. So just want to differentiate that. People would say, do you know Flask or do you know Rails? So programming language is basically anything to kind of get, it's a language to kind of talk to the computer or the processor to kind of get something done. That's a bunch of syntaxes and you kind of build from scratch. Frameworks on the other side is basically frameworks that's already some people have already built certain components. So for example, if it's a website, every website has a web page like a template. So that is where the framework comes into play. The framework makes it easier rather than kind of reinventing the wheel of creating the about page and with these different things or the containers and things like that. You already have it. So almost every programming language would have some kind of a framework associated with it. So it makes it easier to do certain things that's commonly done. So that is the reason why I kind of put a slash and called it the framework. So for example, if you take Python, so Python is a very common, and this is the programming language that we use. It is used in multiple domains, like for data analysis, data science, also used for web development and many other different things. So Python is the base programming language. And the framework that we're talking about is called Flask. So Flask is a framework that we use. So you need to understand at least some of the basics of Python to kind of use Flask so that you can appreciate what Flask does for you. So similarly, there are different programming languages like PHP, Java, all these different things, and has the associated frameworks with it as well. So the ones that is highlighted or bolded, for example, are the ones that we cover. So we do HTML, CSS, JavaScript with React as a framework. We then go into Python and Flask at the back end as a framework. And then we do database. Database is basically the storage of data and how to manipulate data and make it effective to kind of show it to people. And that's where we use the SQLite. That's a database that we use. Databases are very similar and use mainly SQL, structured query language, to kind of query data between databases or back and front from the business logic. We have infrastructure. We don't touch infrastructure as a part of this course. AWS, Azure, Docker, Kubernetes, all these different things are actively used. We don't really, as a software engineer, you are not really required to know all of that. If you're into DevOps or cloud, you possibly need to kind of specialize in this. That's where that's the main part of that role. Moving on. Okay, so this is where I want to kind of give you a heads up in terms of what the different courses are, differentiate the two things. Sorry, the slide is a little bit too much information, but I thought probably comparing it side by side gives us the best, easiest way to understand. So we have software engineering transform and front-end development. So front-end transform, the first part of the course is 18 weeks. And the software engineering is 44 weeks. So both these courses start together. The first 18 weeks of the 44 weeks is the front-end transform, where we kind of, everybody goes through the front-end side of it. So we kind of learn about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and how to create APIs and API integrations. Don't worry about if you don't understand Git or APIs, don't worry about it. Albert in the next slide will explain a little bit about that. So, but then these are some of the things that we cover. So, but the program structure is pretty much the same. Like the students sit through the same live sessions. So for example, in terms of mentor support, what do you get? So we have weekly live sessions. So 2 weekly live sessions every week. So it's 2 hours each. And we have one-on-one sessions that you can book with the mentor. So if you have questions on the labs or some of the work that you're doing, you can book sessions with the mentor. We don't really cap it. You can book as many sessions as you want based on the availability of the mentor. We have mentors who work full time and also kind of mentor. So based on their availability, you can book a time with them. We also have Slack that you can help to support. In terms of the work and time commitment, we're looking at roughly around 20-25 hours of your time every week. Same for software engineering as well. So first 18 weeks is the front end side of it. Students who go into front end would graduate after 18 weeks and probably go into the career support program and land job or in the process of finding a job. The software engineering students would then wouldn't go into the career support program. They'll continue from front end where it stopped into the back end side of it. Like they start learning Python and Flask and databases and so on and so forth, and they start moving forward. So that's the overall, all of this information is readily available on the course guide. So I just want to kind of compare it. And like in terms of job outcomes, you're looking at for front-end developers and like front-end designers, as opposed to like full stack and software engineers for these courses. Moving on, I just want to welcome Albert. Thank you, Albert, for jumping in. So Albert is our lead Academy XI instructor for software engineering and transform. Albert, please jump in, introduce yourself. Albert will be taking us through the next couple of slides where he'd explain the various course assets and course plan that we have. So over to you, Albert.
All right, thanks for that, Ranju. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and I'm glad to have all of you here. Hopefully you get what Ranju has just discussed has already given you a little bit of an insight to what we have for you for the software engineering transform and front end transform, right? And so once again, my name's Albert Alada, and I'm currently the lead instructor here for the software engineering transform and front end engineering transform courses here at Academy XI. And so just a little bit of information about me. So I've been a software engineer for more than a decade now. I've had various experiences from different areas in this industry. So I've worked in developing desktop applications as an iOS developer, as a web developer, and I've also experienced as well, and I've certainly enjoyed teaching as well back in the universities back in the Philippines and as well as the state here. And currently, I'm currently now teaching here at Academy XI. Just a little bit about my experience of leading this course and teaching students. So I've certainly enjoyed that, and I've always been passionate about sharing and helping others, even way back then. So it has definitely been a joy for me in being a part of all my students' journey in transforming their lives, especially for those ones who are trying to transition from different career, right? And also for those who are trying to upskill and also would have wanted a life that would that would suit better for them. Okay, and usually some common outcomes that we have here. So we have like some physiotherapists. So we have some people coming from hospitality as well that has jumped onto this course, and I certainly had the pleasure of teaching them, and I'm now currently really happy hearing news from them that now they've landed their first job as a software engineer, as a back end, as a front end, as a tester, and in various other positions as well. So just a little bit of some insight on what would probably what would it take in order for you to succeed into this course. So I've observed that for students who's really into it and is really committed their time and has been prepared to do all the dirty work. And when I say do the dirty work is to actually be committed and ready to get down and dirty and actually put all the effort into into what we have here prepared for you guys, right? So now just a little bit about about the course assets, that what you could possibly gain in joining this course. So we have few areas here that we have um, divided into. So we have the programming fundamentals, wherein we help you to develop a foundation in programming. So this is just teaching you about different concepts in programming, and these concepts are transferable, so it doesn't really matter. So it's it's programming language agnostic, so it doesn't really matter which programming language you're going to be working with, right? So may you be working with JavaScript, with Python, with Ruby, with Java, C++, C Sharp, etc. So these concepts are what I usually tell my students to focus more into, instead of having to focus on the syntax of each programming languages, right? And then it will allow you to conquer the concepts of object-oriented programming, which is just one of the paradigms used in programming. And there are various other paradigms. We have functional programming, we have declarative programming, etc. So it's just one, and object-oriented programming is one of the commonly used in the most popular paradigms, or ways for us to program, in order for us to uh, help structure our code in a way that it's better understood for us as humans, right? And it will also allow you to think like a programmer. You may think that being a programmer or being an engineer, right, is just it. You know, you would have the same style of thinking or mindset as well as what you normally have from other jobs coming from of different industries, right? But as an engineer or as a programmer, you actually, it requires you to develop a different mindset, and that's what we're trying to get you to to learn as well. And along with this, so we help you into developing all the good habits, especially when it comes to programming, right? Because certainly you could do it in however way that you probably prefer to, but it would be more you'll be a more effective and efficient developer or programmer if you develop all these good habits, right? And then next is the API. So APIs is pretty common, and there are different types of APIs. And at the moment, since we're with the stack that we're teaching here is focused on web development. So currently, we're focusing on the RESTful APIs. Now, don't worry about what that is for now. Later on, once you join in the course, you'll learn more about it. And so what we teach you is basically the fundamentals and the basic understanding of what an API is, which is short for application programming interface. So it will tell you more about on how it works, and so you will teach you how to work with APIs. And also, if you're part of the software engineering transform, then you'll also will also teach you to build your own APIs. Okay, and we have the database. So as part of this course, well, for the front end transform students, you don't get to build your own database, but you will be working with some databases as well, along with some APIs. But for the software engineering transform students, so it'll help you to have a better understanding and proficiency when it comes to databases and what we would call as um, object relational mapping. We'll teach you about how to design your own database and also how to communicate with databases. And lastly, so we have the portfolio creation. So you have to better understanding of an MVC, which is another design pattern, and also with the different frameworks. And Renju's just mentioned a few of them, like Floss, for example, to build large-scale applications and execute application deployment, and as well as understand the whole process of how it is to develop an application from the ground up, right? And so can move on to the next slide. And here I just want to take you through what you would be learning and what you would experience if you're going to join our front-end transform or software engineering transform courses, right? So now I just want to emphasize that for both courses, we offer you a prep course. So once you've joined in, once you've been enrolled, so we give you access to a preparatory material, and which usually just contain CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And so these three are usually the fundamentals or the basic foundation of all websites that you see out there nowadays. So once you go on and surf through the net, so it usually would contain CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And next is once we commence the course, so we start with phase 0, right? And as you can see, it's actually divided into different phases. For front-end transform, you only have to go up until phase 2, but for software engineering students, so you'll go up until phase 5. Now the phase 0, so this is where we teach you just some of the basic skills that you would need as a well, again, I just wanted to reiterate that what we're focusing on teaching you here is on how to build a web application, but these concepts or these things that you will be learning can also be carried out and carried through and be transferred into different aspects of development as well. So going back, so the contents of phase 0 are teach you how to set up your local environment. Now, this local environment is specific to the stack that we're trying to teach you. Now, there are different ways to set up your local environment. This is just one of the possible ways. But now that you would have to learn and how to set it up yourself, so at least that will give you an idea on how to set up probably in the future if you want to work with other stacks and other tools as well. So you will already have some background, right? Then we have the CLI, which is a short for command line interface. It's just one of the interfaces that you probably don't get to work with a lot nowadays, but back in the days, this is the most common interface that you work with in the computer. But nowadays we have the GUI or GUI, which is just short for graphical user interface that you normally work with now when you work with your computers, right? But we don't want to delve on to that for now. We have the Git, we have the CSS and HTML in phase 0, okay? And now in phase 1, so this is where we focus now on the actual programming, right? So in phase 0, it's less about programming, so there's really not much programming yet, although we touch a little bit about JavaScript, right? But here in phase 1, so this is where now we focus on the actual programming side of things. So we will be focusing on JavaScript here, which is the main programming language that you'd probably see out there. Is the highly in demand programming language because it's part of all websites that you'd encounter out there nowadays, right? And JavaScript has evolved all through the years, and now it's even used as a back-end programming language as well. And so there are different topics that we cover here. We talk about the DOM, we talk about how to communicate with data, with APIs, and with this you build your project. And for each phases, we have a milestone project. So same as with phase 2, which we'll be talking now about React. So React is just a front-end library that you can use in order for you to build more efficiently your front-end applications, right? So here, as you can see, you can read through the topics that will be discussed. And so I don't want to read all through all of them, right? But as you can see there, right at the end, so we once again be building a milestone project in phase 2. So now after finishing phase 0 to 2, so the front-end transform students will be finishing after 18 weeks, right? So they will be graduating, but for students of software engineering transform, so you will be proceeding to phase 3, which will now be learning Python, and you'll be learning data type and data structures, more onto object object-oriented programming, and as well as SQL for databasing. And at the end as well, you still be building a milestone project. And then you move on to phase 4, which now will be more focused onto helping you to learn how to build your own API or backend server, right? And so you will be learning how to use Flask here, which is just one of the frameworks that Ren just mentioned earlier. And at the end as well, you'll be once again building a project. So as you can see, up until phase 5, it's just the capstone project for software engineering transform students. So you'll be building 6 different projects after the end of your software engineering transform course, or 3 projects if you're doing the front end transform, right? So as you can see, we allow you to build your skills incrementally, and then so that you can actually get the experience into building an application from scratch, from the ground up. All right. So I think that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Albert, for that and for the clarity for the different topics that you kind of cover. If you have any questions specifically for Albert, please do email him. It's albert@academyxi.com. So let's just keep moving. So I just want to quickly touch base on the phase project. So as Albert mentioned, we have, like, if it is front end, we have 3 phases. If it is software engineering, we have 5 phases. Every phase is a project. So at the conclusion of each program module, students build an advanced portfolio project to demonstrate both technically what they have learned in that module, and also to kind of show their creativity in terms of, there's so much creativity that you can come with. So basically every project has a technical requirement as a part of it based on what you've learned. So it may be from a user point of view, like, this is what we need. This needs to have these functionalities and so on and so forth. So you need to build something that kind of addresses the technical requirements. We also have 2 other components as a part of the projects as well. So we do a presentation, a technical presentation that is recorded as a part of every project. So this is practice explaining a piece of code that you put together, both technically and also from a layman's point of view. This helps in building up your confidence and your communication skill to kind of explain code, and also kind of helps in your interviewing process and also once you land a job. So that's one component of it. The other component is basically the blog. So we ask you to kind of do a reflection of the entire phase and what you've done and possibly what you could have done differently. This is also to kind of capture or probably diary your progress from when you started. So as you kind of go through it, these would be a really good kind of a tool for you to kind of read for yourself, and also kind of an opportunity to kind of explain code. There's a lot of documentation work for software engineers, so that kind of helps in that journey as well. So that is the 3 components. So there's technical, there's the blog that you do, and also a presentation. And then once you kind of put all these together, we have the project review. So the project review is the time with your mentor. It's usually 45 minutes to an hour after every project, where the mentor might ask you some questions in terms of why you did what you did, to kind of make, so this is an opportunity to kind of explain the code. You'd be asked to talk about your thinking and why you went about a certain way. And also at the end, you'll get feedback from an industry point of view in terms of what could have been different, what would have been some of the different ways the mentor would have solved the same problem that you're trying to solve. So that is the in-depth of the project review. So all these projects are kind of built in with the idea that this would be a part of your portfolio on GitHub. So GitHub is basically a portfolio. It's kind of like a resume for modern software engineers. So students push every line of code that you work, like even the labs would be on Git, so that somebody, if they're interviewing or if you want to showcase something, that's your best option to kind of show them your Git profile and say, okay, do you have so many commits, and these are the number of lines of code that you've done, and it kind of shows you which languages that you worked on and so on and so forth. So all of these, like for front-end students, the 3 projects, and probably the software engineering students, the 6 projects that you do, would all be a way for you to kind of showcase the portfolio of work that you've done. Nextly, just want to quickly touch on some of the tools that we'll use. So we use Canvas. Canvas is a learning management system the course is kind of divided by phases. So every phase has a separate course and has a project associated with it. Once you finish the course, basically that would be a combination of theoretical labs and live sessions and one-on-ones. Once you finish it, you go into the project, you finish the project and you do the review and you passed it, you go into the next phase. And that's a different course. We have live sessions that happens. So the live sessions are usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It might differ based on the intake, but we give you that information up ahead. So usually Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. So what does a live session contain? So live session is the place where the mentor would be explaining a piece of code or probably a topic. So there's a lot of practical activity. So he might share his screen and take you through some parts of the code and explain how it's done. And then we wrap up with some kind of questions from the student's point of view as well. So we might even ask students to kind of share their screen and kind of do a peer programming where you do the code and the entire other live session candidates do listen to it. We also use instant messaging on Slack. So we have messages that you can send to your, so this is used more as a community tool for you to kind of help and support each other. If there's questions that's been posted on there, the mentors in due course of time would respond to it. But this is basically for you to support each other. So there's so much support that you can offer others. There might be questions, and kind of helping people solve some of the issues that they face is the best way to learn. So we encourage everybody to be an active part of it. We use Calendly to kind of book the one-on-one sessions. So that's like a booking system based on the availability that the mentor has preset. So you can book 30-minute sessions with the mentor and go about with your questions. And we also have all of these live sessions that's recorded and made available for you to review. So the recorded sessions are not an alternative to not attend live sessions, but an opportunity kind of go back and refresh and look into it. So these are some of the things that we currently have. So last slide from my point of view is, who is this for? Like, who would benefit into a course like this, and what are some of the characteristics in terms of students who we find who succeed the most? People who are detail oriented in terms of who wants to kind of look into detail, who want to kind of solve the problem. So there's software engineering and coding is basically a lot of problem solving. Like, things won't work, even if it's installation, the piece of code doesn't work, and how can you solve it? So if you are a person who is automatically intuitive about why doesn't it work and I want to fix it, this is for you. And you need to have like a basic interest in technology and computers, and at least an inclination, not just the fact that you want to be a software engineer because everybody says being a software engineering is cool and you get paid a lot of money. That's true. But at the same time, you need to have this. And if there's one trait that all of the students need to have, is they need to be passionate. So it's hard work. What we're trying to do is trying to give you a lot of different information and tools in a very short period of time. This is called a boot camp. It is intentionally intense. The possible same thing in a university might take you a year and a half or possibly even 2 years. So we're trying to cram up and give you all the skills and tools required for you to be successful quickly. So that comes with a lot of expectation in terms of putting the right effort. So we usually tell our students to visualize, what does that 25 plus hours look like for you in a week, and how does that kind of work with your other things? So make a plan. So that's basically it from my end. I just want to kind of now go into the most exciting part of today, just invite our special guest, that is Harold. Thank you so much, Harold, for being a part of it. Harold has been one of our alumni, and he graduated in March 2022. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about your background, Harold.
Thanks, Renju. Hi, everyone. One graduate from academic side here. I was born in Colombia. I had prior experience in something completely unrelated to software engineering. I did something called quality management systems, which are related to ISO 9001. If you have heard about it, it's just help companies get a certification in order to get more clients and improve their processes. I hold a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering. However, students from academic side have backgrounds not only in engineering, but in many different roles. Back in 2019, I moved to Australia. Initially, was planning to study English and come back to Colombia, but yeah, things happen and I'm still here happily. And I decided to study software development, and yeah, came across with Academy XI. I have to say, my prior coding experience was almost null. Well, I would say null. The only exposure I had was when I was in high school, that we roughly touched a little bit of code, and actually that was the thing that made me think that I would like to study software engineering in the future. And currently I am working as a software developer.
Awesome. Thanks, Harold. For the benefit of everyone, tell us a little bit about your experience kind of searching, like once you made up your mind that, okay, I want to do something in software. What was your experience searching, and why did you choose Academy XI?
Yeah, it was early 2021. I was looking for providers that would give me probably the best learning experience, possible learning experience. I came across with Academic Sci. I like the way that we had this option of having one-on-one unlimited sections with our instructor. I think this is probably the most valuable thing. Before and even after graduating, I think that was the best thing personally. Also, if you have time constraints, it would be good to have 100% remote classes. And yeah, this was the best fit for me, at least for me. And another thing that I consider Academic Sci as the provider was that they offered to, or they expose you to 2 programming languages. I hear that if you know 2 programming languages, then learning the 3rd and the 4th is going to be quite straightforward, and that is true. So this was one of the things that also make me choose Academy XI.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's exciting. Could you explain the journey, like in terms of once you decided to go with Academy XI, what was the journey like from start to finish, and what are some of the highlights?
Yeah. Well, basically, Albert mentioned a little bit of it. We start with some phases. Phase 0 was giving us some fundamentals, but along the way, all the journey, what I would say is that we will have some theory, and then we would go straight into solving labs, which make us have like a hands-on experience, because we are kind of practicing straight away what we are reading or learning. So I think this was a good thing during my journey. Also, I would, personally, I would schedule 2 sections every week with my instructor, talking about the 101 sections, just to make sure if I am on the right track, or maybe I will have some questions, and with the help of the instructor, it would facilitate my learning with the different frameworks or programming languages. Another stuff that I experienced in my journey was that, after we finish each programming language and each framework, we would have to solve a project related to it. I think that is a really good way of learning. Actually, I think that is the best way of learning, when you are actually doing the projects, because you have to get your hands dirty, and most of your learning is going to happen on that stage. And sometimes I would be pairing with some other classmates. I think that's good. Sometimes you kind of, when you pair with someone else, you can come with ideas that you don't have, and you can learn from them, and they can learn from you. So this was a good thing that we did sometimes. So yeah, this is kind of my journey.
Okay, Nice. Okay, that's good to hear. What happened once you graduated? Tell us a little bit about the steps that you took to kind of land a job.
Yeah, so when I graduated, I was looking for actually, yeah, now that I remember, I start to build my portfolio website. This is something that I did personally. I was looking for yeah, ways to get the attention of employers, and I think that was a good way. I want to add something extra, which is that I follow some Twitter accounts, hashtags, the 100 days of code, which make you keep like your motivation, because you have to show everyone every single day that you are working. You have to show every people, or have to tell every people what you learn, and they will be expecting you to do that, and it will help you to keep motivation. And that thing, when I was doing this 100 days of code, I came across with some people, and one of them was yeah, so some guy who was like a chef, I think, and he switched to software engineering, and he has yeah, YouTube channel. It's with this YouTube channel, I mainly was following what he was suggesting us to get jobs. And yeah, one of them was the portfolio website. Additionally, I also followed the Academy XI coaching program, the career coaching program. Not sure if you still have it, but this was something. Yeah, I was following as well. I would polish my LinkedIn profile. They will teach you anyway in this Academy XI coaching program. And also, when you apply for jobs, try to make personalized or customize your cover letters for each employer. I know it's kind of a pain, sometimes can be a hard job, but that way it helped me to land my job. And one thing that I would suggest that you do is get the LinkedIn Premium. If you haven't had LinkedIn Premium, I think they will offer you a 30-day free, some free 30 days that you can use. And actually, that thing was probably the most important thing, because that LinkedIn Premium would let me get to the people who post the job offers. I will send them like a quick message about it, like I apply, yeah, quick messages about it. And kind of from those people who I reach out, 3 of them, like I talked that I contacted 5 of them, and 3 of them came back to me, and 2 of them offered me gave me a job offer. So I strongly encourage you to at least have that when you are going to look for jobs, get that LinkedIn Premium. So yeah, I got 2 job offers, and I accepted the one that a better fit to what I was looking for. And I'm still working for the same company. So yeah, it's been roughly 1 year.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Albert. In the view of time, we'll wrap up the conversation with Harold here. But if any of you have questions, we have his LinkedIn on screen. Please do connect. And if you have any specific questions for him, please do. We are running a little bit out of time, so make sure that this thing will be recorded. And like, if anybody has to jump off, feel free to. We'll send you the recording. And next we have Heidi. Hey, Heidi. Heidi is our careers advisor at Academy XI, and then tell us what you do, Heidi.
Thanks, Renju. Hi, guys. My name's Heidi. As you know, I'm one of the course advisors here at Academy XI. I have over 11 years worth of experience in what I do, but essentially my role is to make sure that we are putting the right students into the right courses, and I help you with the beginning stages of your journey. But to kind of, recap, what's being discussed here today, what Academy XI are really good at doing is identifying, the skill gap within the Australian market and creating bootcamp style courses around those skill gaps. So our training is intensive training, but it's designed to take you from beginner to employed, and it doesn't really get much better than that. At the moment, we have a intake starting on the 4th of July, and we still have positions remaining in this intake. Further to this, we also have the end of financial year offers available. So it's 30% off if you pay in full, and some really great discounts on the payment plan options as well. To take advantage of this, guys, you can either enroll on our website, or you can call us up, and we're happy to talk you through the process and answer any questions, but we're really eager to hear from you and help you out. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi, for that information. Please do reach out to Heidi. We have her email, heidi.m@academyxi.com. That brings us to the end of this open day, and thank you so much for everybody who's been a part of it. We'll just quickly jump into some questions we've been having. So let me just go through it. First question we have was, is programming coding experience required to take this course? From our point of view, no, you don't really have to, but you need to have an interest and a passion for software engineering, and good to kind of do some of your groundwork. And as kind of Harold pointed out, he didn't have any experience at all. Probably some of the limited things that he did in school, but no, you don't really need any programming experience. What times are the live sessions? We run the live sessions usually after work, because some of you might be working. So we do that usually Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Sydney time. There might be intakes that we might run that schedule. Timing would be the same, but on a different day of the week. Could be Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Friday. We can give you more information on that if you contact us. Are one-on-one sessions available outside of normal business hours? Absolutely. We have certain time slots that are available during business hours, and possibly sometimes during the weekends and holidays as well. But these are set times. But if you need a time slot that is outside of these set available times, please do contact the mentor, and the mentor would usually work out a time with them, with the student. Oh, we have a question from Joel. Do you touch on the design software such as XD and Figma, etc., translating design into code? Not as a part of this course, because this course in itself has a lot to cover in terms of, but we talk about design methodologies and what would be a good design look like, but not from a design software point of view. So if you're interested in that, we have our UX UI course where you could probably do an elevate on that, and then probably start doing the software engineering program to kind of transition what you've learned into good design and good design code. Will there be live coding sessions or code reviews in this course? Absolutely. That is the major part of this. Like, we have live sessions would have some part of coding. In the one-on-ones that you book would usually be because your code is not working. So the mentor might ask you to kind of do a coding session with the mentor, and also do code reviews as a part of the projects as well. So there's quite a lot of coding, quite a lot of review, peer work, and peer programming as a part of this. Any other questions? That I can't see anything else. If you have any further questions, please do let us know on experience@academyxi.com. I can see a couple more. Let me just have a quick look through that. I'm curious about the part-time schedule generally looks like. So the program that we explained today is the part-time, and the part-time and the full-time students are separate intakes if you run them. But the most commonly run intake is the part-time version, where it runs over 44 weeks, and you're expected to put in roughly around 25 hours of time. And there's 2 live sessions every week, like 2 hours each, so 4 hours of live sessions. For all of the other questions, I think it's the time for us to wrap up. But if there's anything further that you would want to discuss, reach us out directly at experience@academyxi.com. And I hope you'd have gathered some really good information on this. And thank you so much for the panel for being a part of this, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, everyone. See ya.